Home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Woo for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Woo!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo from the Toronto, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from Vancouver, BC. And together we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. And speaking of Canadian Ultimate, I was playing Ultimate on Saturday night, and two different people brought up our podcast. So, Theo, I thought you would like to know this because you love to hear from the fans. Okay, so first of all, shout out to Aiden McKibben, who's a junior in BC. He said he actually binged all of our episodes once he found out about our podcast. So I think I didn't know that binging podcasts is a thing, but I mean, the youth know what's up. So shout out to him. And also shout out to Aaron. I don't know your last name, but he's from Manitoba. And he moved to Vancouver to do, I think it's like PhD or something at UBC. And he's like, love your podcast. And I was like, thanks. So shout out to both of them. We love hearing from you, that you like the content. And, you know, if you don't like the content, we also would like to hear that too, so that we can stop making that content. Theo, how are you?
You know, I like to hear from the fans, as you said. And, yeah, someone moving over to UBC, I have high hopes for the UBC and Western contingent. For those who follow the college scene, tournaments have been happening. I think Santa Barbara Invite, Florida warm-up happened recently at the time of this recording. So college scene is happening. I'm wondering, I'm throwing it back on you now, Danie. Are Vancouver, Victoria teams, are they planning to go to the U.S. College Series, or what's happening to that?
At this moment, the plan is to play playoffs for sure and to try to go to potentially either Northwest Challenge or Bellingham Invite, some sort of closer tournament in Washington. It all really depends on what the school will allow and what the borders look like at the time. But that is currently the plan. They canceled and they bowed out of, I think, the California tournaments, but still hoping to do the tournaments in Washington. So
like conferences. And then
and potentially a tournament leading into conferences.
Cool. Yeah, not much going on my end, Danie. I know people were answering our asking questions, and so I'm just excited for a chance to answer these questions, give some unfiltered takes, on some of these topics.
Yeah.
So before we even head to the mailbag, I wish I had a mailbox here to actually show on the video side. I don't have one. Do you have one there, Danie?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, well, it wasn't really mail. It was more like answer on Instagram, excuse me, and some emails. But we'll do a quick news segment here. Do we need to do the dancing thing? Are we going to do that today?
No. We have so much to get through. This is kind of an unconventional episode, so I think we'll just smooth sail. I'll dance, but you can just go into it.
All right, so the news is, if you already heard, sad news, C4UC. I know the West Coasters, they're probably not saddened by this. It'd be sad, for example, if Goldie was canceled, but C4UC is not happening. And the Uni Series, talking to my inside source here, Mr. Bachelor, said it's uncertain right now. Teams are interested. They sent out a survey. Once again, it's probably going to have to come down to the schools, that kind of thing. But at the time of this recording, the Waterloo University event has not been canceled. But I also was told to relay a PSA here. So this is the PSA from Mr. Bachelor. He told me to say this on the podcast. I'm not held hostage or anything. I did choose to say this out of my own volition, but here it goes. So the competition committee is having our annual big meeting February 12th to 13th. So by the time this comes out, it won't be that time. So you still have some time to answer this question. If anyone wants the committee to consider suggestions for CUC, C4UC, and CUUC, find a member and let them know. Members are listed on the Ultimate Canada website, or you can message Bachelor directly. Boom, that's a PSA for you.
That man loves talking Ultimate. So if you want to slide into Bachelor's DMs, I think he would welcome it with open arms. So
Do we know his
any
email?
suggestions, any questions? I mean, I'm sure we could find it. Is that kosher? I think that's probably kosher. It's a Canadian Ultimate. I'm sure it's like
Yeah, just search Andrew Bachelor.
big fact
Canadian
checker
Ultimate.
Bachelor at Canadian Ultimate. Yeah. Well, we'll leave it in the show notes or something. We'll post on it. Whatever. We'll do the things. You can find out how to contact him for sure.
Mailbag time.
Is there
right?
any other news?
No, that's it. That's the news right now. It's
Amazing.
pretty quiet.
It's the off season, I guess. So, shall we head to the mailbag?
We need a song. We're gonna need Aiden to like put in a song of Mailbag. I don't know what that's gonna be, but
There's like a Return to Sender song that is like from like the 1930s.
you mean the
I
Beatles?
swear to
Come
God.
on. Yes.
There's another one. Oh. Anyways, I mean, we could use the Beatles one too. So,
Copyright.
yeah, let's head to the mailbag.
This episode is brought to you by Be Ultimate Apparel. Based out of Vancouver, BC, Be Ultimate is climate neutral certified and designs products that are built to perform. I personally love my 2 Be Ultimate Sun hoodies, and I rock them wherever I go. If you want to learn more about Be Ultimate, start your custom team order, or check out any of their ready-for-purchase collection, you can head over to beultimate.ca.
This is Jamie Millage from Hound and Team Canada. Bad decision? Looking off that reset to throw the high stall hammer. Good decision. Listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
I'm dancing into the mailbag here. So, Danny, I'll let you answer the first question because I know, or ask the first question because, whenever before we even answer these questions, whenever you put out a question sticker here out on the Instagram, you have to expect some fun or trolly kind of questions from people that know you, and that seemed to happen. So, Danny, I'll let you answer ask the first question here.
Yeah, so I love this question, first of all. And we will keep everyone anonymous. We do know who asked these questions, but for your own sake, we will not say who asked these questions. Anyways, the first question, Theo, this person wants to know if your dream girl plays Ultimate, and I would like to further ask a more clarifying question. Can you describe your dream girl? Maybe she's out there in the Huckin Eh audience.
Yeah, it could be out there, or she could be out there, I should say. First of all, you need to get a Christian Mingle account if that's the case, and I'll see you there.
You're not lying.
I'm not on the Tinder right now or anything. No, I actually don't have a Christian Mingle right now, but sign up. Maybe I'll see you there sometime. But long walks on the beach, listen to music by sunset. No, but in all seriousness, you gotta love night walks. What else? Apple pie. College football. Come on. There's more, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's our initial list. So does this person exist out there in Ultimate for you?
We'll see. Thank you for the person who asked that question. You know who you are.
Yeah, we really like it when we make Theo really uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable right now.
Makes me very happy. So I'm going to roll into the second question. Do you think that CUC is happening this summer?
Yeah, we just so you know, we saw all these questions beforehand. Once again, what do? We're trying to be honest with the audience. We have our answers on separate pages, so we actually don't know what the other person's going to say. So give those organic responses, Do I think it's going to happen? I'm going to say yes, because I think other events are happening like Worlds. I mean, it's in the United States, so it's a little bit different. But I do think CUC will happen in some shape or form. Danny.
Yeah, I think Outdoor Ultimate is here to stay. I think it gets tricky when things move inside, but outside, boosters are available to people. Yeah, I don't see why those events wouldn't run, but I don't want to say that and then be wrong again. So I think Ultimate outside is here to stay.
All right. Speaking of outside here, look at that segue. Maybe this one doesn't really apply out here in the West Coast or there in the West Coast, but is there a way to practice Ultimate in the snow?
It snows sometimes here. I do need you to know that. And I remember at UVic, it would snow and we would still go out into the quad and we would throw and we'd play Ultimate at night. And it was really fun. It's exhausting and it's maybe not the best for teaching maybe systems or tactics, but it's really good if you want to be working on your throwing accuracy, because if you miss the person, it's not like they can run really fast to go get it. So I think there's ways to practice it, but I don't think I'm the expert here in this room. So Theo, what do you think?
You need a snow blower, first of all. Bring a snow blower to the fields and take that out, and then you can start trying to play in the snow. I know the local club here, the Toronto Ultimate Club, one of the largest clubs in Canada, had a snow event trying to get people to play like a playoff kind of thing from league that was canceled back, when Omicron first came to the scene. And so, yeah, there was some snow ultimate. I wasn't there, but they played in the snow. I don't know if they wore cleats, probably just wore boots, snow pants, big mitts. There's like a big tournament called Snowplate that happens in Sudbury, if I'm not mistaken, here in Ontario. I've never been, but I know people like the snow ultimate. You can dive, and as long as you're layered up, I feel like you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. Theo, what is an underrated throw that more players should learn?
First of all, there's not that many there's like trick throws, like Rowan McDonald show like trick throws and stuff, but those don't really count. So in terms of an underrated throw, it used to be everyone's like, oh, I gotta love the lefty backhand, lefty scuba, all that stuff. I like the flick blade. Flick blade. Someone's marking you flick, you just throw the blade. Cutting through the zone. Come on, flick blade. That's my choice. Danie, yourself.
I love me anything forehand. So yeah, flick blades all day for sure. I kind of struggle to think of the answer for this question because my answer changes depending upon what age it is. So when I'm thinking about like younger kids and introducing them to the sport, I think that offhand throwing and overhead throwing should be introduced quite early on. So an example is yesterday at one of our sessions, this high school student, she hurt her right elbow, and so she was playing with just her left hand and throwing like dime hucks with her left. And I was like, that would be so hard for an adult who'd been playing for many, many, many years to just develop that. It just feels so imbalanced. But for younger people that are relatively new to the sport, it's so quick for them. So we should really lean into that and make them just like these like wizards with both hands throwing overhead throws. Because so often in juniors, you'll see somebody get trapped on the sideline and they're like, oh, I can't throw my medium flick or my medium backhand, stall down. Like, why not get comfortable with a hammer or a scuba or a blade? Like, more options makes the game more fun. So I always think like the creative throws, but teaching them early on. And another thing I think that we as coaches are afraid to kind of work on is like really, really tight throws. Somebody's kind of like literally right at you, like within a meter, and you just kind of jam it in their gut. We don't really practice that, but that's actually quite useful in the end zone. And even in zone, we don't really practice that as much as we should. My final one, which you'll like because it's kind of in the blade category, but fade throws. Ooh. The super outside in, so where you can seal out your defender. We're seeing that more at the club level, but I think we should start that younger so more people are more comfortable throwing a bit more of that outside in edge huck.
Yeah, the back shoulder is very popular in another sport. Obviously, a completely different item to look at in football. But back shoulder fade when the defender's kind of face guarding you and you can kind of just put it out. Like, I guess it's a German, but it's a little different with the edge. And I just feel like that's a killer throw. So, I just came up with an idea, Danie. Before you're the Elevate Ducks, right? But now I think you need to be called the Elevate Wizards and just have every single kid ambidextrous and just call yourselves the Elevate Wizards. You heard it here first. Come on.
That'd be sweet. Just like these 5-year-olds coming out throwing hammers.
And they have to wear wizard hats too.
Soon. We'll get there. Wear
wizard hats too. They would love that.
Yeah. Super, super useful in the field. So you have like that extra height on your mark. Maybe an extra defender there. So I like it. You're going to trademark it. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to dive in a little bit more. Oh, actually, before we go into the media questions, speaking of meat, who's stronger, Danie or Theo? That was a real question that was asked. And Theo, what do you think?
Well, Danie has definitely been lifting longer than me, so I'm going to default to Danie, especially the fact that she has a gym right now in her house. So, and Pelotoning, if I'm not mistaken. I think I can outclimb you, though. I will say that. I think I'll climb you on the rock.
Never climbed, so I'll give you that. I feel like lower body I might be stronger, but potentially upper body with your climbing. I think you'd have me with any kind of upper body push pulls.
We're too nice right now.
That's
we're too
what I
nice.
think.
I like it though. I like it.
I mean, I wrote me in my notes, but I am being nice now because I see your face and I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Hurt all the feelings,
That's okay. All right, we're going to dive into questions that are maybe a little bit more girthy. Theo's
classic
favorite word. So, I'm going to read this verbatim because you can kind of get a sense of what that person was feeling when they asked the question. Why does Ultimate Canada consistently cancel events instead of finding alternatives? The rest of the world is transitioning to post-pandemic, but we are not. Theo, you want to take a first crack at this one?
I will take the first crack at it. I know people from Ultimate Canada will be listening, so here is my perspective as a podcast host, ultimate player, fan, aficionado, whatever you want to call it. I am not speaking on behalf of any organization, just so that is clear. Why are we canceling events? I think ultimate players in general are more cautious. And I think also that the person who wrote this brought up rowing. I am not too in tune with what's happening there, so my apologies that way. But a lot of the events you're referring to are in a different country that's like a little bit more lax with COVID, as we know. I was watching, quick anecdote here. I was watching 2 college basketball games, one with my team, Michigan State. People are wearing masks for the most part. I'm watching a game featuring Texas. In Texas, what do you think I see, Danie?
No masks.
COVID doesn't exist in Texas. So what I'm trying to say is, in different countries, they're going to have, people with different tolerance levels and those things. What I will say is, for example, in Ontario, we're going back into games. So like where I work at the university level, there will be games without fans for the first couple weeks. And then we're going to move to half fans, then full fans and all that, and kind of see how that goes. So that is happening, at least at the Ontario level. I'm not sure what's happening out there in BC. Like if Canada West is still doing games and stuff, I think they are. But
yeah, I mean, we can be outside a lot. So I think that changes things.
Yeah, but I'm thinking
for some sports.
I'm thinking like basketball and volleyball out in Can West. I know it's pretty popular. So, to answer the question, the rest of the world is transitioning. We're not so much. I think we're more risk adverse. Charlie Eisenhower's talked about this. The risk of getting COVID, like playing Ultimate's like a little bit less or a lot less than like other things indoors. So it probably should happen. But I also understand Ultimate Canada wanting to, be safer. But I honestly think we should just be playing. That's it. I'm going to leave it at that, Danie. I'm going to leave it at that because there's another spice coming up. So got to save it.
Okay.
What about you?
So, one thing I want our audience to understand is that the lovely folks, however many of them at Ultimate Canada, probably like 1.5 employees right now, maybe more than that, but there's not a lot of people working there, and they're not just sitting behind their computers being like, ooh, whose worlds can we mess up today? They're a governing body that it has to do the best for the people that it serves while keeping in mind local regulations and rules and healthcare or health professional advice. It's not that they're just making these decisions unilaterally based on a what if type scenario. There's a lot of things that go into these decisions, and a lot of it's usually out of their control. So I know it sucks. It sucks so much. And I think if any of these events were outdoors or in a place where transmission was a little bit less prevalent, I think stuff that was happening in Ontario and Quebec, like there was lockdowns and stuff kind of happening in certain places. I think it's just the timing wasn't right. And I don't know if we can blame Ultimate Canada for that. And I don't even work for them. So I know it sucks. Anyways, I think the cancellations are hurting our sport. It's hurting lots of sports. It's definitely hurting juniors. I'm seeing it like crazy in BC, and we know all over the country it's impacting everybody. So we hear you. It sucks. I feel it. We're going to get through it one day. And it'll just make it feel extra sweet when we do hit the field together. So Yeah. Not a satisfying answer, I'm sure. I'm sure everyone wanted pitchforks, but I don't have one.
I mean, you can bring your own pitchforks if you want, but in terms of the audience, and make a petition or something. But
yeah,
that's pretty much our kind of response to that. Danie, I'm going to ask you this question because it's not really a question. It came in as Alberta Ultimate in quotation. So, you're going to start off. You said you had something to say about this quote unquote question, more a comment, but Alberta Ultimate. There you go.
Yeah, I think Alberta Ultimate is great. I just have personal knowledge that I know that both Calgary Ultimate and Ultimate Edmonton, or Edmonton Ultimate, UAPA, Edmonton Ultimate, yes. I know that both of those organizations are putting a renewed or like a bigger focus on junior development, because I think that they were looking across their leagues and looking at the people registering for different things, and it's just getting older. And then again, just as everywhere else, we're seeing a lack of junior involvement. So both those organizations, I have personal experience. I know that they're both really investing in it. So I know that Calgary Ultimate is potentially going to be licensing out Elevate's curriculum and kind of like our ways of doing things to try to kind of expedite the process there to get more kids playing. And in Edmonton, they hired a new person, and she's out doing demos in like dozens of schools, if not more. She's insane. She comes from volleyball, doesn't even play Ultimate. She's going to the schools, introducing the sport as much as possible. So Alberta Ultimate, you're doing it right. You're growing it the right way, and it does take time. So I don't know much else to say other than that. The club teams always seem pretty consistent. So I hopefully you can get kind of a new surge of youth talent coming into the province.
Yeah, I'm all about Alberta Ultimate, specifically one team.
Yeah, I know.
Because they're named. The jersey's in my drawer right now, repping the AFC. But in all seriousness, I think, Alberta in general and some of those quote-unquote smaller, we'll put it in quotation, smaller Ultimate markets are always going to face this, like, not dilemma, but problem? Maybe it's a problem. I don't know if it's a problem either, but players leaving and going to play in the major cities. So, like, in Ottawa, you sometimes see that with Toronto, and then in Alberta, I think it's been happening in Vancouver. I could be wrong, Danie, but I think you have a couple Edmontoners on your team? Or no? Or like Albertaians?
We had Sarah Norton, play for us, and then Madison Ong, but Madison Ong is going to UBC, so maybe Frisbee was a draw for that, but unsure. Yeah,
the comment from this person did talk about wanting to move to more of an Ultimate hub, which is Ontario, of course, but that person was moving, and not the only person who they know that has decided to go to school out east to potentially find some more playing opportunities. So, that's all I really have to say about Alberta Ultimate. Ask a question, and then maybe we can answer something specific for the commenter or people from Alberta.
Yeah. So, Theo, this is more personal to you. And to me, I'll answer after, but you get to go first. When you first discovered Ultimate, what was it about it that made you enjoy it and also want to keep playing? And also, like, what keeps you coming back?
Yeah, so to be truthful, I was not very good at other sports. Like, that's just straight up. So, like, if I played basketball, I just gotta get dunked on. Like, I can't play football even though I love football. So Ultimate was a sport that I feel like I could play, especially now, and like be somewhat competent at it, and not need like if you want to be good at basketball, let's just use that as an example. You not just gotta be playing that for 10 years, but like there's just so many good basketball players out there. It's hard to like, I don't know, not many people could say they played at a Canadian national championship for like the sport of basketball or volleyball, like even at the club level. But like at Ultimate, there's opportunity for that, and that like was like a draw. Some of my friends were playing it, so that was like a huge draw, and I made a lot of the friends I have now through it. So I would say that's probably what keeps me coming back is like the friendships and less the playing. Maybe because I haven't played like heavily in the United States or something like that. But Yeah, I would say the friendships for sure. I know one of the questions was, is there something you enjoy about Ultimate that you feel like you wouldn't get from another sport? And I don't necessarily think so. Like, I've played other sports and I get community out of it. I'm trying to be a little bit more well-rounded, quote unquote, and play other things, not just Frisbee. So like I said, rock climbing, round net, not spike ball, round net or other activities. So, yeah, for me, it's the community of the friends that I already have, through Frisbee, and a chance to play with my brother. I forgot to add that part. Playing for a couple years with my brother was very meaningful. Playing a national tournament with my brother was super meaningful. He's a married man now. He's a somewhat avid listener to the podcast, so he may hear this comment, but he's a married man now, has stopped playing Frisbee. So, yeah, do I need to play Frisbee anymore? He stopped playing, so that's my answer for you, Danie.
Wonderful. Mine is a bit more cliche, I think.
Give it to us. The cliche, we like.
Yeah. I just remember the first time somebody like threw to me in a game deep, and I was just running, like, tongue hanging out of my face, tail was wagging, and like catching it in the end zone. It's just like the best feeling, especially when you're new, because you don't necessarily have like the throws yet, but that feeling is so addictive. And then you get a little bit better, and then you kind of get that feeling with new things. So throwing far becomes like the new addiction. Like, it feels so good when you connect on one in a game. It kind of like those little milestones kept me coming back and really engaged. And for me, I just felt really lucky because I was kind of in a bad place when I went to college, and having that team right away was really instrumental in kind of helping my mental health and kind of keeping me engaged in the university. I think I wouldn't have survived school without having Frisbee and having the team, having something to train for. And to also answer the other question about what I enjoy about Ultimate that I couldn't get from other sports, I kind of want to echo what you said, Theo, about being able to skip ahead and be able to play at a high level, like the upward mobility. I know that's the wrong term for it, but it's such a new sport. You can be athletic, train hard, and you can make it to a pretty decent level if you put in the time. And that is not the same case in other sports. Well, if you're watching this episode, you'll notice that there was a bit of a skip, hop, jump, and a skip or something. So also, if you follow us on social media, you will have seen that I outed Theo, but then hilariously, I ended up also being the problem with the internet issues. So what had happened? Theo's mom? Was it your mom that were mad at?
My mama. No, my papa, actually. My dad was the one who popped in the microwave.
Come on, Dad. Okay, so, and then that jumped your internet, so you dropped off the call in the middle of my answer. And so then I stopped the recording, and then mine took like an hour to upload before we could start recording again. So I'm also the problem, but he's nicer than me, so he didn't out me on Instagram anyway. So if you follow us on Instagram, you know what's up. If you don't follow us on Instagram, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I like it.
Okay, Theo, we have a question about the Ottawa Outlaws. Somebody's asking, how did the Ottawa Outlaws get out of the basement?
Yeah, I don't like the term the basement, but I get why this person said that. To be honest, like, I think you just gotta keep doing what you're doing, like building in, not just, well, one, I would say you need to continue building into the youth. So like the whole youth scene there is great. Ignite and all that. Keep doing that, and try your best to keep your talent in house. So, as I mentioned earlier with what I said about Edmonton or specifically Alberta, is similar. If you can keep your talent in-house, that'd be great. There's been a couple Ottawa people who've ended up playing for Toronto, for example, even in the AUDL scene. So if you keep your talent in-house, that'd be great. Keep doing what you're doing, building in the core, and then rely on the veteran leadership that you have already, in like Nick Boucher, Carson Turner, players like that, and try to build in the youth. They have a lot of young, I would say 18 to 22-year-olds making the scene, and then just continue building up the high school program there. That's going to be a theme in some of the other answers, I feel like. But yeah, the youth is important. That's all I got to say.
I also want to save this moment to give a quick shout out to Jeremy Hill, who's also putting in work this offseason for the Outlaws. So we'll hopefully see it translate onto the field for them this season. I think the Outlaws are quite an exciting team. I mean, Montreal's also really exciting. Toronto's going to be exciting in its own way. I know you and I talked about this offline, but they're going to be quite young potentially this year. So maybe Ottawa won't be in the basement. They might be like on the ground floor.
Well, maybe on the ground floor, but you also got to know that there's going to be other teams back in the fold. So the East Division is going to be stacked. New York Empire in the house. They just signed Antoine Davis, and if you watch Ultimate, you know who Antoine Davis is. So good. Davis is joining that team as well. So it's going to be interesting in the Eastern Division there in the semi-pro scene. But Danny, we're now moving into our more serious questions. We took an extended break right there, but or did you want to? Well, first of all, did you want to say anything about the Outlaws getting out of the basement before we even continue?
No, I was just faking my way through that answer to begin with. I don't have anything more to add to the AUDL stuff. I'm very far removed from it. No, you said a more serious question. The next question is a personal question.
It is?
I mean, isn't it the personal fondest memory of the sport?
Oh, drats. I took that question out of my responses, so that's why I didn't see it.
No fond memories?
Yeah, we'll go fond memories.
I'll go first then.
Yeah, you go.
I'll give you time to think. So, it's my second year playing Ultimate. I have 2 new co-captains. I think it was my second year. Maybe I'm misremembering. Second or third year. 2 new co-captains. We hired 2 coaches. So, shout out Jesse Bell and Ali Short, co-captains. We hired coaches. And by hired it, we didn't pay them, but they showed up and we agreed, and it was great. Kevin and Phyllis Brule. We're having a meeting, and we said, what's our goal? And we said, by the end of our 5 years, we want to make it to USA Nationals. And mind you, we were ranked 100 and whatever at the time, and we ended up in our 5th year, by the skin of our teeth with 6 bids in the region. We made it to USA Nationals, so it was pretty sweet. So it was cool not only to be there and to experience that type of tournament, but to have set such a long-term goal and to achieve it with a core group of people. So lots of shout outs to people, but one major shout out to Katie Hikita, who is a big fan of the podcast. And I'm a big fan of Katie Hikita. So when I collected the poll, the person I gave it to was Katie Hikita. So lefty breaks all day. That's my memory. Theo, what's your fondest memory?
Did you cry, first of all, before I even share mine? Did you cry? We all
cried. Yeah, we all cried.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you like us crying?
No, I think it's good to have a good cry sometimes. Yeah. So
it is. It's healthy.
Yeah, my fondest memory is related to what I mentioned earlier with my brother. So we played together in 2014 for a team called Goose, which is out of Kitchener-Waterloo, the B team of Maverick at the time. And then that's from the movie Top Gun. If you know, you know.
Yeah, anyone who goes to UVic, they know. Every single bus trip down to California, Top Gun is on repeat.
Oh, dang. Okay, so you know what's up. So Maverick's brake cheer, just so you know, is for Goose. And that was just a thing that people were like, who is this Goose person? But, if you know, you know from the movie. So anyways, all season we're focusing on trying to make nationals in Waterloo, which is near where I was living at the time. And regionals happens and we lose first of all, we win a game against our Toronto counterparts in Roy, and then we lose in the game to go against a team called Too Bad, and we lost pretty badly actually. So we're out of nationals. We're really sad. One practice comes. Yeah, it was too bad. One practice comes and the A-Team Maverick tells us to just get on the line and start running, and we're like, okay, we're probably I don't even know what's happening, but we're just get on the line and start running, and so we're doing so we were going back and forth like shuttles on the field or something, and then they basically were told us to stop, and then basically told us we made nationals because the team dropped out, and I was like, yo, thank you Quebec team that dropped out. We're going to nationals, baby. Let's go. So we ended up playing in our quote-unquote hometown nationals. So that was fun. I remember just looking at my brother. I was like, hey, we're actually going to get to do this together. So that was pretty exciting. We didn't do well in the tournament, but hey, we were there.
That's
so
okay.
I was pretty happy about that.
Sweet. We loved it. Now, this next question is about recruitment. And it can be taken many different ways, but the question itself is posed: what is the biggest recruitment challenge the sport currently faces, and how would you work to resolve it? I know that this isn't necessarily something that you think about too often. I don't think you're coaching or running programs.
I'm not coaching actively right now. No. Not like you.
I'm curious what you have to say about this question, though.
So I think one of the biggest things that stops recruitment is actually the perception of frisbee in general. So some people who I remember I've told people I play frisbee, they're like, oh, is that for dogs? Is that frisbee golf? Is that so I think that actually can affect recruitment. I think more at the adult level, less at the kid level, when you're at the youth level, when you're, seeing in gym class and those things, I think it's less. But for adults, if I were to tell a friend that I was recruiting to league, they probably might laugh it off, or they don't really take it that seriously if they're not on the scene. So I would say that's probably one hindrance. And the way to stop that, I don't know if there's a way to stop it. I know in the States specifically, they're trying to get high school ultimate as a varsity sport. I think it's in Vermont, if I'm not mistaken. Already, but getting a sport to be varsity stats would be huge. Running showcase games between colleges, I know NC State's done that before, would be huge, even in Canada. That just builds momentum of oh, this is more mainstream or common to see, and then people won't see it as the dog sport. If they actually watch the game, they would realize it's not the dog sport, but you got to get them in the seats or somehow to see a highlight or something. So
yeah,
that's my perspective. Danie, you have the whole youth scene perspective, so I'll give you that. The
entire youth scene. I have that perspective for sure. Well, in my experience, there's two scenarios. So scenario number one, there's lots of kids that want to play, but not enough committed coaches. And so in that sense, a recruitment challenge is recruiting coaches that are committed and qualified is an issue. And one potential solution that I've seen that has worked, and I've seen a lot of schools do it here, and I'm actually able to do it myself this year, is whenever a more experienced coach is coaching a school team, for example, a lot of the times alumni do want to come back and they do want to coach and still be in the scene. And so capitalizing on that as an awesome opportunity to not only train the kids at the sport, but to work with the coaches so that potentially the next year they could coach the younger team or the B team or something like that. I think that's a way to get more coaches that are committed, invested with experience. And the other side, say you have a committed coach, but are struggling to get attendance, to get enough people to run a proper practice. One thing that I admittedly did not do a lot at the beginning when I was coaching a team and say maybe not quite a few of the players were missing for XYZ reason, I would completely change my practice plan and I wouldn't teach any systems or tactics because I was like, oh, well, the whole team's not here. What's the point? And I think that if I were to do it again, I would do it differently. I have the group that is committed with me at that moment. And I shouldn't waste those opportunities to be working on those things with those players, because if you show up and you're committed and you just drive through with your plan, if you can, of course, and you make the practices fun, high tempo, good energy, encouraging, you're going to start getting more people joining into that team. So you can start with 6 committed people and it's going to grow quite quickly if you just kind of emotionally and physically commit to it. Yeah. I've seen both sides. So I think that helps. Also just active recruiting. When I was at a school, I'd see the basketball players and I'd just be like, have you thought about this as a spring sport? And it works. So a lot of times people don't think about it as an option until you tell them you think that they'd be good at it. That seems to help.
Yeah, I have an answer to that, or one of the answers I want to say later revolves around what you just said about basketball and those things. So I'll save that for another question.
Excellent. All right. The god darn United States of America. How does Canada, this is another question, I'm not just saying that randomly. How does Canada narrow the gap between the US and Canada in terms of international play? Because US is like quite often sweeping medals.
So
Thoughts, Theo?
yeah, what you have to do is basically take the fastest receivers and defensive backs in the CFL, basically the ones that are Canadian, and basically put them on the team and see what happens. So that's one strat. Some people might be laughing. It's kind of like I'm kind of joking, but kind of not joking at the same time. One of the things I've always thought. Actually, should I even share it, Danie? Because then someone might actually steal my plan and then use it at like a tournament. You know.
I mean, how can I tell you whether you should share the plan or not if I don't know what the plan is? Yes,
Okay,
share it.
I'll just share the plan. My plan is to recruit a bunch of like varsity or like high level athletes, pair them up with a couple throwers, and just like run them into a tournament. See, like, hey, just go out and play and see what happens. They might not be able to read the disc right away, but give them like a couple months, and I think it'd just be a whole different ballgame. So I don't know if that's actually a legitimate strategy. That's just a thought I had. One thing I would say is more teams playing in the States. I think that will help. Right now, obviously, geography is a potential issue, but if more teams can get reps in like big American tournaments, that's like where not all the talent is, but a lot of it, then I think you can get experience there. And then, I don't know if this is a cop-out answer, but it's always build into the youth. Build into the youth. You got to build into the youth because the veterans are going to head into the Masters and Grandmasters age and someone needs to supplant them. So even like U20, U24 showcase games are one of the themes you'll notice is the showcase game thing. It's not just semi-pro ultimate I'm talking about, like showcase games in the club rules. Like just get people seeing the sport and exposure, and other people will be like, hey, my kid could do that too. They play football, but oh man, football, there's all these like other problems with it, maybe like concussions or whatever you're worried about, and they see ultimate, like, hey, maybe I'll transfer to that because I just saw a showcase game online or in person. That's my selling point right there. Come on.
I mean, I'd watch a showcase game for sure. Yeah, my hat is juniors. And by juniors, I mean like U24 and below. And at the U20 level, Canada's like right there. We have a lot less youth in general playing the sport. And we're like, sometimes we get some golds. Like we like scrape one every now and again from the States. Have we ever beaten them for gold at the U24 level? So maybe that's where the gap is. So when I think about it, it's just the States has such a deep college scene and they get to play often. They get to play high level games often. These kids can go to any number of schools and have full seasons, whereas besides UBC, UVic, the Canadian College Series is quite short in terms of duration, and they're not getting to play against all those other teams with different styles in different weather. It's such a huge advantage that the States has over us. And so, I mean, this is going to be a plug to a program that I'm working with, but the BC Ultimate U24 program is like specifically designed to kind of meet that demand and try to fill the gap between maybe players that have aged out of juniors, but didn't go straight into UBC and aren't quite good enough to make a top adult club team. We have this like program that kind of captures those athletes and works on the skills to get them ready to go up into like a city's B team and then potentially into the A team. So we need to start doing a little bit more programs like that in our ultimate hubs, as well as try to encourage, this is my bias, but try to encourage some more teams in Quebec, Ontario, and beyond, any of these places where it's kind of snowier, to try to play in the States in the spring, if you can. You got to do it. You got to do it. It's such a big advantage. So it's just going to help so much. That's my plug. I know a lot of the juniors that I've coached over the years are planning on going to like Guelph and McMaster and all these things. They're like, the ultimate scene is sick. I'm like, it's sick, but it's short. So I want all these players to go there and demand that they play in the States. That's my plea.
Yeah, story time here. There was an opportunity. U of T had a couple of Go players. I think Paul Tatula, Brenton Tan. There's a few of them. And they actually won at conferences. And so Ultiworld, on Deep Look, they were like, oh, U of T, like maybe they could like get the bid in the Metro East, aka the Metro Least, and there was opportunity for that. But then there was like I think a rush game or something happened on that weekend, so not all the players showed up and they didn't win the bid. But they were seeded first at regionals, and like could potentially get the bid. The issue though, Danie, at least from my knowledge in Ontario, I can't speak for Quebec, is it's around exams when conferences and those things happen. And it sounds like it would be over there on the West Coast too. So that's where the deterrent is. But you're practicing out either in the snow or indoor. Why not just find a tournament in Florida or like North Carolina? Come on. Got to get out there.
Yeah, it is hard to have the tournaments or the playoffs be right in the middle of exams. We had, one time I got a final exam moved so I could go to Utter Bowl, which is like a fun party tournament in Nanaimo, BC. So this is my like PSA to all of you college folks out there. If you don't ask, you do not get. So if you're worried about exams being a hindrance, say, I am a collegiate level athlete and I have this important tournament to go to, and maybe they'll move your exams for you. So it's possible. You just got to want it bad enough.
It's true. It's true. Now we're moving to Ultimate Canada related question again. This actually topic came up in an episode way back with Morgan Hibbert and Sarah Bobak. Did we have anyone else on that one? I think it was those two. World's qualifying year. So in general, the question is, how does Ultimate Canada make CUC and I guess this is the Masters as well, CMUC, more interesting for top teams? So how can we, and I think this person asking this question is like related to like year by year, not just obviously the world's bid year kind of thing. So Danie, I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, I assume the question was meant for like the non-qualifying years to try to draw those top teams. And from personal experience, if it were more tiered, I think that would be helpful. So for example, this last year at UCI, at pseudo CUC, it would have been nice to have played Stella. Like, they're a great team. It would have been nice to have had the opportunity to play them. We played a lot of games where the scores weren't super close. It's not fun for either team. So if there could potentially be a way to tier it, I know they've done that with juniors before, and there's mixed feelings about it, and I totally understand that, but there's some opportunities where we could get a few higher quality games that would make it a bit more worth it. And then my second point would be, for a lot of the teams that don't always go, it has to fit really nicely into the USA series season. So if it's back-to-back weekends, like, we have to prioritize what the team's goal is. And if the team's goal isn't to go to CUC to get gold or silver or bronze in a year where there's no bid or nothing on the line, so to speak, it can't be a priority if it's too close to a USA tournament. So the schedule matters a lot, to be frank.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. I went in a completely different mode. You need to somehow find, I don't know how this is going to happen. These are Dream World questions, right? So you need to somehow find a sponsor that's just going to fork over some dough potentially and maybe offer some money to the winner. I don't know. That's a thought. I know the Richmond Cup was a big thing with like VII. Like, there was a decent enough like prize purse for that tournament. Like, it was, people were like kind of excited. Like, oh, like I could win like a decent amount of money. Like, maybe that could be an option. I know I'm going to piggyback off what Morgan said for those who remember how, you need a certain amount of people from the previous year, like from that team, to kind of like be able to play or something. I don't know. That kind of gets into some fishy water. But you can't require teams to go. So that's a tricky part. So you're going to have to incentivize them in different ways. Obviously, if you're a Furious out in BC and the tournament's out in Quebec, they're probably not going to come if it's not a World's year, and I don't know how much incentive like even a prize purse would bring to them. So I don't know if there's any solution per se.
And not one that we have.
Not one that we have. Maybe you have it on the audience. Maybe you I really don't know the solution there, Danie. I don't think there is one size fits all solution either. Because like one possibility people would say is get rid of the World's year. Have it so that Furious never goes to CUC. Have it so that GOAT never has to go. And then you just build up like these other like teams that end up not playing in the US series. And like just like then it's consistent for those teams year after year. That's something that has definitely been thought of.
All right, moving in a slightly different direction. How should Ultimate market itself to the general public in order to get more fans? I know this is something you're keenly interested in, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, I think I've already shared this answer, but it's showcase games and it's highlights. highlights.
Yeah.
So something I believe that the AUDL does well in terms of marketing the game, even though it's like a quote-unquote different version, some would say, is like the highlights. Go like on their social media and you just see like highlights after highlights. No offense to like USAU, but if you look at their page, like there's a like Kalakovic like highlight, but like afterwards, right? Like long time after. Obviously it's a lot of work and those things, but it's more so like if you get highlights like right away, like and just like kind of continue to build those, I think that's important. But especially if you're trying to attract the youth, like I think Ultimate's not the only like thing that struggles with this. Baseball does too. I'm a huge baseball fan, and they think they struggle with this as well. It's like we live in a very Danie, you know this, a very culture that's like not very attentive now. It's like what's the new thing and kind of quick thing. And so with highlights, it's just like, does it attract me right away? If not, like I'll swipe it and like move on. And so I feel like you got to make attractive highlight tapes.
How do you feel about these showcase games that are happening at like pro sports events, like in the halftimes, like basketball games and stuff? How do you think that that's doing?
Oh, the halftime shows, like yeah. I feel like a lot of people probably laugh at it. Like a lot of people, first of all, use halftime like at the Green Bay Packers game to go like get some hot chocolate or cocoa or whatever. So you might not be getting everyone, but I don't think it hurts to like have it there because you might have like, let's just say 50 people that are like, hey, this game looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll go check out what Ultimate is in Wisconsin. And then they go play League, and then you just never know. So I think more visibility is better. I don't know if it necessarily like, yeah, I think there's definitely a way you can go about it, but I would say visibility, let's get it.
Nice. Yeah, I think the only thing I'd really add on to that is, like you said, like Instagram stuff, but I do see a lot of Ultimate organizations posting stuff on TikTok now and again, and I'm always curious to see who's commenting. Is it just like the inside circle of people that within that organization that are commenting and liking? And sometimes you'll see people commenting like, oh, that actually looks sick. So it is getting out there. People are starting to use these platforms. The PUL has a lot of highlights going on. So does the AUDL on TikTok specifically. And I think that stuff doesn't hurt. I think you got to really, as you said, highlights. You got to get them with the athleticism and like the fun of the sport. And then once they're in, then you can be like, oh, there's also this cool thing called Spirit of the Game. You can have that too.
Ooh, that's a hot take. That is a hot take. I will give a shout out to Nathan, the resident videographer of Ultimate here all over the world. Is one of his videos, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it was from the Douglas Bowl many years ago now, and it got like pretty viral. I think it was on Unilad or some other like like it got huge. It got picked up and it was like huge, and like a lot of people were like, oh, this does look really cool. And just the way he edited that video and captured the hype of Ultimate, that was a big thing. So got to keep doing stuff like that. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know what's like on it, to be honest. So you could tell me that.
I mean, there's some frisbee stuff on it, but I think it'd be really interesting in a perfect world where you could get crazy stats without having to do any work on it. It would be so interesting to know how many people Nate has gotten into Ultimate because of his content. Probably a lot. Because I show his like 2016 juniors video. Whenever I'm doing a presentation to non-Ultimate people, that's the first thing I show. And they're like, that got me. Like, I'm listening. I'm interested. They're leaning in. So Nate is like the best thing.
That? When they won, when the U20 girls
Canadian,
won gold.
Yeah. That's the most hype video. The music is just all chef's kiss. Okay. This one, the next two questions, I had a hard time thinking of an answer, but when do you think the first variation of Ultimate will be in the Olympics?
So this question is unique because it's when, not what. So when, honestly, if it doesn't get into 2028 in LA, I just don't know when it's going to get in. That's like my honest answer.
Same. All right. I'm going to move forward. Keep going. Where should Ultimate Canada implement the new Fours rules, roster size, the whole thing? I'm going to leave this one to you. I have no answer for this.
Yeah, I think you just call me Mr. Showcase Game because that's literally what I'm going to answer for this one too. I think that you need to, first of all, have a group of people to test it and like show what it looks like so that other Ultimate orgs can see if that's something they want to implement in their own leagues. So like, for example, USA Ultimate or maybe WIFDIF had Sprocket out of Boston, like kind of demo it so you could see what it looks like with actual like club players. And just sort of like the whole thing, right? The field and all that. I think you could do it like that. I don't think people would buy into that replacing C4UC, to be honest. So maybe it could be a separate series in university in the winter, indoors, because you can use the space. But I think people will push back if you said, hey, we're going to do this at C4UC with the new roster size, like less people, the field. People, especially in Quebec, they would not like that. But maybe I could be wrong. People from Quebec might like it, but my initial reaction is they would hate it.
Yeah. And I just don't know. Okay. If you could change one thing of the game, on-field governance events to improve it, what would you do? You have a magic wand, Theo. Zoom.
I have two answers for this, and I've been waiting for this question, to be honest.
Okay.
So two answers. One, timeouts need to mean more. So this is on-field. Timeouts should do something in club. So if you call a timeout, you only get 2 per half, and you can use it not just to settle down your team, but to like do wholesale subs. Because I think right now, I've heard Charlie talk about this, and I was like, hey, Charlie, I agree with this like wholeheartedly. Like, if you call a timeout, it just, all it does is like, yeah, you can like strategize, whatever, but like, it doesn't have the same benefits that like in other sports where in basketball, if you call a timeout, it not only advances the ball in the pros, but you can sub people as well. I just think that would be a cool option. Do you want me to share both? Like, that's my one, and maybe you can push back on it. But my second one is making tournaments less tournament style, like quarters, semis, that, and make it match play. So you have teams that you know are a certain level, they play each other, and vice versa over here. And then if you win, you play other teams that have won. If you lose, you play other teams that lose. So you're constantly playing teams that are around your level. Maybe there isn't like a quote-unquote champion. Or maybe like you could have a finals and figure it out. But that way you have, and as you mentioned, like a CUC, you have games where it's like 15-2. And it's like, but if you have match play, you might have the first game be 15-2 if it was really incorrectly seeded. But then the rest would probably be closer. So change the timeout, match play.
Okay. I hear you. Especially on the timeout one. I think that's like an AUDL thing and potentially a PUL thing.
I believe I think it's players. Both, if I'm not mistaken.
So I'm going to add onto that and say the game after you watch the semi-pro leagues, it's so fast and much more viewer friendly. And then you go back to Club Ultimate, it's just slow. I'm also biased because I really like moving the disc really quickly and get really frustrated when people hold on to it for a really long time.
I know what you're going to say.
I get frustrated with myself when I hold on to it for too long. So yeah, stalls to 7, stalls to 8, whatever. Make it less. That's kind of my only real one, or to like decrease the time between pulls too. These are all kind of in the vein of trying to make it more spectator friendly. Not super hot takes.
Danie, I actually got one more. Now that I'm thinking about it, I got one more thing I want to change. So I'm waving the wand one more time, and that's to change mixed to sixes.
Yeah,
I think
I would change all ultimate to sixes.
Oh, the only reason why I think I've said this before on the pod, and so someone might be like rolling their eyes and saying, "Theo, you've already said this," but it's 3-3. Like it's It's just easier. There's no like, 4-3. It's just 3-3. It's equal. It's co-ed. It's called mixed for a reason. I remember I've probably given this example. Like I've seen co-ed volleyball leagues. It's like 1 female identifying player and 5 male identifying players, and they call it co-ed. I'm like, that's not co-ed volleyball. Don't call it that. So yeah, I think 3-on-3 would be really cool. I think sixes on like the club size field, regular size field, would be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm a fan of sixes. I think, generally speaking, a lot of the tactics you use are just like how to get bodies out of the way so that you can create space. And like, I think like rosters could be smaller, it could save teams money, it could make tournaments. Anyways, I think sixes makes a lot of sense. But sevens is the way it's always been done. Well, I guess it used to be like 10-on-10 or whatever. But anyways, I digress. Olympics, yes or no? Huh, quick take.
Yeah, get it in the Olympics, but I think I've said this before as well. Got to be beach mixed. Beach mixed, I think would get it in the Olympics. Besides just the 4v4 that we're trying to do. What about you? Olympics, yes or no?
I think it would be cool. I think it would help legitimacy. It would help #legitimacy. It would help with, just like general exposure, easier to sell to parents. But I hear a lot of people that are afraid that it's going to change the way our sport looks, and it's not going to be kind of like what we all know as ultimate now, played on the grass, whatever. I mean, that's also very like North American and European centric. Like lots of countries play beach as their main form of ultimate. So that's a particular lens I'm speaking from. But I also think it'd be really hypocritical of a sport that's like, oh, we're new, come try it. That is also like, ooh, don't change it. Traditions are important. So I'm curious about other forms of ultimate. We cannot necessarily dictate what the non-ultimate player would find compelling. And if they find it compelling, then that's maybe the way it's supposed to go in terms of going into the Olympics. If beach is more compelling, pitter patter, let's get at her.
Preach it, Danny, because for as a devout baseball fan here, like the whole purist thing really just ruined the sport for a while, and it's like we gotta get with the times. Like now they have the pitch clocks, and there's like reviews in baseball, which used to not be a thing because we always did it with just umpires and no reviews, and then there'd be big calls missed in like really big situations because we're humans and we make errors, and so it's like. Yeah, I know some of you might be ultimate purists and we're, offending you a little bit here, but I think for the game to evolve, it's still a relatively young game and there are changes to be made. So let's kind of, I'm not saying throw everything like on the wall and see what sticks, but there are some things that maybe could better it, and let's try it like at a tournament or something.
Yeah, I agree. Like even like shootouts in hockey. The overtimes used to be endless.
That was a stir. That was a stir before, yeah.
Ugh. I was like, I don't like this. And I'm like, now it's pretty entertaining. Okay. Is Pro Ultimate, AUL, PUL, WUL good for the future of our sport, rather?
Yes.
You're nodding.
You know why? Showcase games.
Showcase games. Okay, we know what you think.
Well, it's just a future in terms of, I think it's just the most easy way to like get people to watch it and potentially prevent injuries as well if they're not playing 7 games in a weekend.
That is a good point. It just seems sometimes outrageous when we tell people the demand of our season and what our tournaments look like. People are like, what are you talking about? Yeah. I remember playing basketball at tournaments. You'd play 3 or 4 games.
The whole weekend or like per day?
Yeah, the whole weekend. And you're not like cutting like you cut in Ultimate at full speed. You're kind of only ever going at like 80%. Anyways, Ultimate's insane for that. Okay. In terms of the pro stuff, I think that the clips and stuff that are being produced, they seem really professional. I see people wearing jerseys, even from here, from the PUL teams. Like Morgan Hibbert's wearing like a PUL jersey to league and stuff. And I have got a couple jerseys. Like there is some buzz, but there's still so much tension between the leagues between each other, between certain fan bases. Like, there's a lot of drama that happens all over the place. And it's hard to fully buy in when it just always feels a bit icky for me, to be perfectly honest. Like, I was part of the boycott back in the day, and I didn't like the AUDL being in Vancouver. I didn't like it. It frustrated me that the sport I was so proud to join, because it felt really equitable from my perspective at the time. Now I know better. Was being threatened. And like, these people that I was like playing league with were all of a sudden professionals, and I was relegated to being like a halftime show for their game, and it sucked. So,
oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah. So I personally, I'm happy that there are women's pro leagues, because that does make me feel better, but there's still just so much ickiness there too. There's so much stuff to be worked on. I think no shade to any particular organization, but I feel like being on boards for those types of organizations must be incredibly difficult, because there's so many people that have so many impassioned ideas and perspectives, and everyone wants to do it the right way. Everything's just so slow. And I'm done. Sorry, I'm done.
No. Hey, we like the unfiltered talk here, and yeah, kind of similar to what we said before with Ultimate Canada and the things they're going through. I'm sure, yeah, those organizations are going through similar things. I know. I'm just thinking, not even here in North America, but Australia had something as well. They had like a league that was happening where it was like, I'm not sure if it was 3-3 mixed and like 6-on-6, but they had like these weird quarters and like a different way of scoring Ultimate, which is kind of interesting. So kind of evolving the game that way. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. We're probably going to have to, we're not getting to fisticuffs here. But agree to disagree, which is good, because oftentimes we agree, and I know people want us to argue, so we're not going to yell at each other. We're not like Stephen A. Smith and whatever other person he's talking to on ESPN. So
no, absolutely not. Okay. So this next question is also kind of about pro leagues. It's about, and kind of on the topic of how we were talking about the Olympics too, but like, is there a point, or what is our stances, rather, is the question, on significant changes to rules or the game to satisfy external groups? So whether that's ESPN or any of those folks out there, potential like Olympics bids, what do you think about significant rule changes for the appeasement of the non-ultimate organizer?
Yeah, so to give some context, the pro leagues changed it to a field because I don't know if this was the only reason, but I think this was one of the reasons, is like the lines matching with the football field makes more sense. Like if you watch club, the lines often don't match, obviously, because the field dimensions are different. Referees could also be considered into that. You can also lump the 4v4, like changing completely what Ultimate looks like. So what is my stance on it? I am not the biggest fan of the 4v4 major changes to like try to get that in the Olympics, but I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself by saying we should do 5-on-5 beach. So I don't know. It's hard to say, because the traditional way that we've done Ultimate has served well, but maybe there's other ways to do it, as I mentioned earlier. So I don't necessarily think it's wrong to evolve, but maybe the question to ask is, why are you doing it? So is it to make the game more equitable or more fun to play and watch? Or is it just to, like, for example, is the 4v4 done just to get in the Olympics, and like once that's over, we'll never play it again, like in league or in tournaments? Those are my questions. We can talk more about this one. I feel like this is the hot topic one.
You answered the question with questions. I love it. Okay, so I mean, I feel like we've kind of answered this in some other questions, and my perspective, if the rule change makes sense, like I think the 7-second stall count was a good one, was a positive one. But I'm not sure how I feel about refs still. So if it makes sense, go for it. If it feels a bit icky or feels like not in line with the integrity of the sport or the values of the vision, then maybe we need to kind of recalculate and take a step back to as you're saying, why are we doing it? So, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, some would say we're potentially selling out is the word on the street here related to this question of these new variations. But in my opinion, there's variations of like FIBA rules to basketball are different than like NBA rules, and college basketball rules to 20-minute halves are different than 4 12-minute quarters in the NBA. So yes, they're the same game, but there are little variations that make it different. And don't get me started about NFL overtime rules when the Bills lost. Don't get me started about that, because that's different than college. So, and CFL. So
Totally. Yes. Right there with you.
yeah, you know what
I don't have anything.
Right, Danny?
Absolutely not. I don't follow football for pretty similar reasons as to why I don't follow the AUDL too much.
Ooh, tough.
Okay.
Tough crowd here.
Don't really have much more to add to this question because I feel like we have kind of covered it. I've covered kind of my perspective. Okay, great. Okay.
I think the next question, right?
Yeah, and it's a really interesting one, and I have a lot to say on it. I'm curious to hear what you have to say too. So, perceived bias in team selections. This is something that we kind of talked about a little bit when we talked about beach. It comes up a lot with the U20, U24 level, depending upon who's coaching. And so the question is this real? What do we do about it? And how do you navigate it as a player, as a coach, that kind of thing? So, Theo, with your expertise in this subject matter, would you like to tackle the question first?
So the question is the 10th best player in Toronto better than the first best player in Saskatchewan or Halifax or like New Brunswick? Like, who is better, right? Or I guess like, because like if you're looking at like the players kind of at the bottom of the roster, it's going to be your like 12th best player in that city compared to like potentially the first best in another city. It's tough to say because I think, is there like bias potentially, but I don't think it's actually based on city. I think it's based on familiarity, which is related to like coaches just having coached those people and seeing the people they play against as well, like constantly. So if you don't see a lot of people from Saskatchewan play, you're just not going to know their name. And so when they show up, you're just like, I don't know who that is. And unless they have like an amazing tryout, you won't even you might not give them a look. I'm not also a Team Canada coach, Danny, so you can give more insight into this perspective. But I think there's a familiarity aspect. I mean, if you look at the World Games roster, I don't have it on hand, but I know like a lot of Sixers players got taken. And I don't think it's a coincidence that one of the coaches also coaches that team. I'm not saying that's the only reason why they made it. So please don't say that or don't quote me as saying that, but I'm saying that there's potentially the familiarity aspect that could lend itself to making those choices. Danny, your turn.
Yeah. One solution I have, especially at the U20 level, when you have less game footage, the athletes haven't necessarily played college yet. I think a coaching network is a lot helpful. Like, I consistently reach out to club coaches and ask for perspectives and opinions. And I think that it should be like a nationwide kind of contribution that can really help alleviate the perceived bias and even some of the actual bias. Now, also something that I know Ultimate Canada has been doing a bit more focusing on is actual data collection, because numbers don't usually lie. And so at tryouts, we're doing a lot more sprint testing, jump testing, and those kinds of things. And those do come into play when you're picking your 23rd and 24th people on your roster, because you're not picking your O-line anymore at that point. You're picking your third D-line. And so you want people that are going to be fast, foaming at the mouth. Do you care as much that they can break the mark? Probably not. Why are you laughing? It's true.
No, just the saying you use. But Danny, my argument or question would be, why can't we give that 24th spot? I think I may have said this on that Worlds episode, but why can't we give that 24th spot to someone from an Ultimate community that normally doesn't get represented? Why can't we do that? Like, the reality is that 24th player isn't probably playing in the semifinals or gold medal game, or if they are, they're playing a couple points. Like, why can't we give that experience to someone from a smaller community?
I mean, that has happened. before where you'll see a player from the Maritimes make it or something like that. But I know that sometimes when you're taking a player that's not from a system that's well established, where they get lots of exposure and have tried out lots of different systems, it is a drain on the coaching staff with only a training camp or two to try to catch that person up to speed. For a player that might not even really be playing minutes, it makes more sense. That's where I would understand the decision to take a 10th player from an established city where they can practice, they know the systems, they fit in. So we love these answers when you're like both and for sure. And I have a bleeding heart and I would love to take athletes from smaller communities because it does mean so much to those communities. On the flip side, the more practical answer is probably to take the athletes that can train together and the ones that you have a bit more experience with them and you can work with them in the off season.
That's what I'm saying. The word familiarity, like that's,
like
it's not. So I think it's easy to think it's bias, but I think it's like two pronged of familiarity and the competition that they play. So if you're in those major hubs, you're playing, what did I say earlier? Those American tournaments, getting lots of experience and exposure. Whereas if you're in a more isolated community, you don't get those tournaments. Like I can't imagine even Winnipeg does send people to the national team, but I can't imagine what these club teams go through with trying to find tournaments. Like you have to go down south. You're probably not, like I know PBHG goes to No Borders in Ottawa, which is great, but not all the teams do that. And it's like, it's just a lot of drain on financial resources as well when you're not being paid to play. So lots of factors there.
Another thing that I think athletes don't think about so much when they see a roster come out and their name isn't on it, a lot of times you can't help it. I've done the same thing before where you see names that are on a list and you're like, well, I can throw better than that person, or I am X more than that person. And you have to, what I think that people don't always understand is that when a coach is selecting a team, there's roles. And so we're so quick to think, oh, that person, it's the throwing that people like really get set on. And so often, like the bottom 7 people on your roster, you want them to be super fit, super fast, super explosive. And you don't care that they're ruthlessly breaking the marks, their hucks aren't dimes. So they don't necessarily stand out at a tryout for those reasons, but the coaches are specifically watching their defense. Are they like annoying the heck out of this person? And so a lot of times people feel slighted when those types of players make it over them because they have more disc skills. Maybe they've been playing longer, but that's not the role that person was brought onto the team to fill. And so it's hard to not compare. But as somebody who's gone through that process, like I've picked people who are more athletic, but less skilled for those spots. And so that's just the truth.
Danie, you're lending credence to my theory of getting all these CFL players onto a team. You're lending kind of like, you're proving my point there of the athlete. And yeah, I mean, I've seen like it personally, just like with someone who, hadn't played Ultimate for that long, but was a club volleyball player. And then they made it to a U20 team. Mr. Aiden Hayter. I'll give you a shout out, Aiden. I don't know if you watch, but I don't think he had played Ultimate for that long, but he made a U20 team because he was a club Ultimate player. Ended up starting to play volleyball for the University of Guelph mid-season, got picked up, and the rest is history. He doesn't really plays Ultimate here and there, but it's what happens sometimes. You pick up the athlete and they make plays.
How are you feeling, Theo? That was a lot.
Yeah, we were trying to keep this under an hour. I don't think that's going to be the case, but
it's going to be like an hour and a half for sure.
yeah, but hey, we appreciate the mailbag. What I will say is a plea for this episode to happen again, but we got to tell you something, Huckin Eh audience. We got a lot of questions from who, Danie? Who did we get it from?
From what we can tell, 100%, or maybe just under, but I'm pretty sure it's 100% of the questions came from male matching Ultimate players. So we want to do the next mailbag episode where we're hearing questions from just the female matching.
Like, we know we have those fans. We know that for a
They're
fact.
out there.
So send
Juniors,
us your cues.
Masters, seniors, whatever. wanna hear from you.
Regular adult players. I know that's really going to grind someone's gears that I said that. But
Who?
if you play regular adult, masters or juniors, we want your questions. Female identifying players, step up. Let's go. All right. Appreciate our sponsor, of course. We always repping the jerseys. I'm repping a Waterloo jersey. I did not actually attend the university, but it's actually my brother's jersey. It was too big for him, so he got another one. And I get to rock this jersey. What are you wearing right there? Is it Traffic?
It's Traffic from this year. I like these jerseys.
Nice.
They're nice.
Yeah, you're hoping to maybe trade a jersey sometime. I know jersey trades are a thing as always. So if you want a Traffic jersey, slide into Danny's DMs there. But Danny, you feel good about this episode? We answered a lot of questions. I don't think we were as shocking as maybe we're trying to be, but
Hey, I gave an AUDL hot take and a team selection impassioned response. So I'm 3 wows out of 5.
Maybe I'll be 2. My hottest take was you need to sign up for Christian Mingle and eat some apple pie with me or something. So that was my hot take of the episode. Right?
Ladies, if you're out there and you are interested in apple pie and want to hear somebody talk about sports 24/7, Theo is here for you.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I won't expect my DMs to explode here, Danny, but I appreciate the awkward question and my awkward answer as well. I don't think I'm beat red from answering it, but it's fine.
No. All right. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next episode.
Before we say goodbye, I just realized we missed something in the news, Danny. Realized we missed something in the news. Come on. We got to tell the people. We're so sorry this is at the end. But some people got announced for something pretty cool, Danny. We totally missed it. The Hall of Fame. Come on, we missed it.
Well, because we're going to do an episode on it.
Oh, we're not talking in podcast voice anymore? Okay, that's fine.
No, we're podcast voice right now. We're going to do an episode on the Hall of Fame, folks, but we want to make sure that we do it the service that it deserves. And so we're wanting to make sure that we can try to get all of the Hall of Famers on that episode. And that's hard. It's hard to schedule all of our schedules.
We're going to do it, though. We're going to do it.
We're going to do it. So congratulations to those people. We want to hear from them. So it's not a congrats, see you later. Yeah. It's a congrats, and we'll see you soon.
But now you know the secret as well, Huckin Eh audience, that I try to change my voice a little bit to a podcasty voice. I don't know if that's, Danny, if you think I do that, but I feel like I do that. So when I before we go on the air and I'm explaining hey, we're going to do this, I think I sound different.
Sounds like a robot. Hello, my name is Theo.
Oh my gosh.
I like Christian Mingle.
Oh my gosh, we're going to sign out of here. This is too long.
Okay, thank you if you're still here. Thanks everyone if you're still here. You're the best. See y'all later.
Hey, this is Shanique Crawford, founder and CEO of Discover Diversity, and you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.